Welkom terug hier by die groot ontbyt op hierdie donderdagoggend. Kyk, altyd lekker om jou te motiveer. En as jy nou al is dit nou baie sleg met beerdkrag en alles om te besef dinge kan selfs nog erger gaan. So 2018 het ons gesels met Rusty Labuschagne. So ons gaan nou 'n bietjie praat oor sy boek Beating Chains. Welcome back, Rusty.
Thank you, Jana.
Well, before we get to the book, let's talk about your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, English Labuschagne.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Labuschagne.
So you go Labuschagne.
Yeah.
Because we interview, I also will know a person, and he's Labuschagne.
Yeah, okay.
And Rusty, where's Rusty from? What's your?
Russell is my.
So your name's
first name,
Russell,
yeah.
and it's like Rusty.
Yeah.
But you're in English Labuschagne.
Well, my ancestors are part of the French Huguenots.
Okay.
So they settled in the Cape between 1688 and 1691. In 1913, my great-grandfather trekked over 1,000 miles by ox wagon from De Aar in the Northern Cape to West Nicholson in southern Rhodesia then, which is now Zimbabwe. And over the generations, we just lost the Afrikaans.
Yeah.
I've got O-level Afrikaans and I can understand and get by, but I can't get deep into it.
Yeah, I love it. It's
But
good.
it's still in my blood. When I hear Afrikaans music, it...
Yeah. And that's our social media question, is that Afrikaans song that really gets you dancing.
Yeah.
So when we spoke to you about your book in 2018,
Yeah.
it was self-published, and I was so excited. I was a bit confused, and I looked at the interview again, and
Yeah.
again read the book. But it's now available everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really so well written. It's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
So it's already available. People can go buy it.
Yes, it's in 72 bookshops around the country.
So for people that missed that interview, because 2018 is a long time ago, pre-COVID days,
Yeah.
just a summary of what happened. You were 10 years in jail. I stole 10 years, but
Yeah.
just like the incident, if you just sum up.
Okay. As a group of us, I had a fishing resort on Lake Kariba in
Yes.
Zimbabwe, and a group of us went on a fishing trip, a bunch of guys, mates of mine. And we were bream fishing in the river, and two of us decided that we wanted to go and try tiger fishing on the lake. And on our way back, we spotted two fish poachers in a steel boat.
Yeah.
And they were notorious poachers. I had problems with them before. And it was 2 hours to the police station, so I didn't want to, at 5:30 in the evening, have to drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back. So, and there was no national park or police close in that area. And being a professional hunter and guide, it was our job to arrest poachers. And my intention was to scare them. So I drove at them with my boat, and just before I got to them, turned the boat, and the wake of the boat tilted their boat, causing them to jump out into the water. They were about 3 meters from the shore and soon scrabbled to dry land. It was about 1.5 meters deep and ran away into the bush. But it was during the land invasion chaos, and the injustice had crept in all over. And the following day, the police arrived and accused us of drowning one of them. And to cut a long story short, I was framed by the poacher, the police, and the courts. It got very political. There was a judge incarcerated in trying to assist me. So it became very political up to presidential level. It was very ugly, yeah. And when you go in and you get into something like that as an innocent person, it's very, very difficult emotionally and mentally to get through something like that. Never mind the physical side, it was tough, yeah.
And what's interesting, I mean, if you go through the book, and I don't want to give away everything, because people really need to read this, because, I mean, you get drawn into the whole story. It feels like you're there.
Yeah.
Even in a court case, I said, no, you were 30, 40 meters from shore. It was 3 meters. I mean, there was so much false evidence.
Yeah.
And like you said, a guy that everyone knew, he's a poacher, Mickey, I think his name.
Yeah, Mickey. Yeah.
And just a funny question, I want to get to the whole jail experience. If he walks in here now, Mickey, what will you tell him?
I've learned forgiveness, and I have put everything behind me. And I want that to be a big lesson to so many people, that if you don't let forgiveness go, if you don't learn it, and you carry all that stuff, it'll eat you away. It'll drain you. It did. And I learned that unless I just handed everything over to the Lord and got on with my, getting through the road that was in front of me, I wouldn't have made it through there. Yeah.
So we're going to get to you. So.
Yeah. And the big thing, one of the big lessons I learned is, especially with COVID, there's a very big power in fear. So I had this fear of prison. You see the guys working on the streets and all that, and think, I hope I never go there.
Yeah.
And same with COVID. But once you're sentenced, you then have a vision, you have a direction to tackle, and you tackle it. And you realize that it's nothing like you thought, because it's everyday life. I mean, unless you take away your air or starve you to death, I mean, it's just sleeping on the floor, and we're tough, we can get over those things. But it's how you handle it that makes the difference. And when you go in there and you're flying high, thinking you're bulletproof and can handle anything and full of confidence, they crush you. And they crush your confidence, your spirit, your soul. And you have to dig really deep to find solutions to get through there. And you grow. You learn things that others never have to. So, in a way, and this is be weird, but it is a blessing that I had those 10 years, because I'm a very, very different person now. And then that's all in the book. And it's, the life lessons I learned, I would never have learned. And it's prepared me now to make a difference in the world. And that's my mission now, is to inspire people. Before prison, I had built a great empire. I was flying my own aircraft. I mean, I was doing really well. And but it was all about me. And my empire, money, more and more. And I never had a purpose. And now I have a purpose. And that's to inspire people and change lives. And inspiring others far outweighs the millions I was making before. I love it. It's like you and your job. It's just, I love getting up in the morning and tackling new things to make a difference and meeting new people. It's interesting. I love it.
That's amazing. And that's why I want people to read a book, because, I mean, if people realize what you went through emotionally, mentally, it is just hectic. And a funny question, like Malagas, the guy that you realize you get into jail and you must make either friends with the bad guy, the biggest bad guy. But that perception of and you spoke about other friends that became friends, there was an armed robber. And you bumped into him, and after he got out, I mean, he just went on being a robber again, and they shot his arm was amputated. To the relationship that you form with someone that you really know is bad. You're the innocent. I mean, you didn't do anything. But you realize this is a murderer or a real armed robber. That kind of changing a mind switch to see the human. And it's a bad human, but you need these friendships.
You realize that when you go in there, that you have this huge fear of all these criminals, these hardcore guys. But they are human. And I learned in my safari business that when you go into a new area, find out who the worst poachers are and employ them. And then you got them on your side. So when I went in there, that's what I did. I made sure I made friends with all the biggest guys. And it cost a little bit with cigarettes as money in prison. So you butter them up a little bit, but it changes your whole life in there. But you also got to stand your ground. So it got physical in there, and when they understand that you're not a pushover, they respect you. And even with the guards, you don't tolerate everything that they tell you. But to an extent, because sometimes they'll taunt you and torture you to see if you're going to challenge them. And don't do that. But it gets to a stage where you say, officer, that's not correct. And they understand that. They're all human.
And it was this moment, and I think that's where the change as well came in with death row, and that exact morning. I mean, even if it sounds so funny, one of the wardens got a $200 bribe, and you were saved. And that's where you felt that's where God intervened, because it's a small but a massive miracle. Otherwise, we won't be sitting.
The ironic thing there is, I had got lost during the war once. And I was a wild youngster with rugby and being growing up hunting and fishing on the farms. And my whole teenage years were on farms during the war. So we grew up, armed and in the war environment. And that created a wild, hardy character. So the last thing we did and thought about was praying, because that, I don't need help, I'm okay, And only those that need help went to church until I got lost during the war. And all I had no shoes, no shirt, no hat, a rifle, and ran off after some baboons that were causing havoc and got lost in the mountains in the middle of nowhere on a huge cattle ranching setup. And the whole day from 6 in the morning until 5:30 that evening, I hadn't had anything to drink or eat, and I never ate before I left. But I climbed the side of that mountain, and there was just mountains everywhere. And I got on my knees and I prayed. And I felt this feeling that I'd never felt before, like warm water being poured over me. And I never forgot that, because I stood up and very calmly, like being guided, turned around and slowly walked down that solid granite mountain, about 300 feet. And where the granite went into the soil was long grass. And I carried on walking, and 10 meters further were two car tire tracks. My uncle had shot a kudu bull there the year before during the rains. And I followed that, and then when they faded, I saw where the workers had cut the trees to get the vehicle in. I followed several Ks and eventually got to, because there were 1,000-acre paddocks, got to the main road where my uncle and all the workers had laid out looking for me. And I never told anyone about that, because I thought they'd think I was weak or something. But when I was on death row,
I must need to stop you there for time.
Yeah.
But we're going to pick it up because it's linking with the big kind of what I say the miracle.
Okay.
So that's just say. So ons gaan net hierna verder gesels, ons nog lekker baie tyd. Welkom terug hier by die groot ontbyt. As jy net ingeskakel het, jy kan hierdie onderhoude op YouTube ook sien op ons kanaal. Ons gesels met Rusty Labuschagne, Beating Change. Jy moet hierdie boek kry. 10 jaar in 'n tronk in Zimbabwe en verskillende tronke. Onskuldig, kom ons amper sê gevreem vir moord. Rusty, welcome back.
Thank you.
We spoke about that first experience you had, a spiritual experience, getting lost in the mountains.
Yeah.
And you were linking it to the experience even where they wanted to kill you in a certain morning. So let's just pick it up there.
Okay, so it was after a cell phone misdemeanor in a medium security prison. You wouldn't dream of that in a maximum security. And I told them I'd used the guard's phone, but I had my own phone, but they couldn't find it. So they put me on death row, but in the dark cell. So yeah, the cells are 3 meters long by 1 meter, by 3 meters, and a vent. But the only vent was covered by a staircase, and the electric light didn't work, so you couldn't even see your hand. And they locked me in there for 6 days, totally naked, 3 blankets, and a 5-liter container cut off at the top as a toilet. I was allowed out 5 minutes in the morning to clean my teeth, 5 minutes at 10 o'clock to have a shower, 5 minutes at 3 o'clock to prepare for lockup. So 23 hours, 45 minutes locked in that dark cell. And because they were trying to break me to make me tell them what the guy's name was. And on day 6, I got on my knees and I prayed. I'd lost a lot of faith, I guess, over the years, just praying and praying that I'd go home and nothing happened. And that day, when I got on my knees, I felt that same water feeling. And I just knew, everything's fine. And I sat on the floor leaning against the wall. And within 30 minutes, my Afrikaans mate shouted from the soccer ground, and I faintly heard, "Hey, Russ, everything's okay, my mate, don't worry, everything's okay." So I jumped up, I said, "Hey, fool," he said, "Don't worry, Russ, everything's okay." So I lay down on the concrete, looking up at the darkness. Within 10 minutes, they unlocked my door. And that noise goes right through you, these huge steel doors, yeah. They said, "The officer in charge wants to see you." Chucked me my clothes. I went up to see him. And his exact words were, he said, "Have you remembered he said, "Hello, Russell." I said, "Hello, officer." He said, "Have you remembered the officer's name yet?" So I said, "No, officer." He said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it in God's hands." These were his exact words. "I'm going to leave it in God's hands. You can go back to your cell." And at the exact moment when I was praying, my sister was paying him $200 to get me out of there. And it just made me think of Abraham when he lied to them that he was the brother, that his wife was his brother, so they didn't kill him and take his wife. Yeah, so yeah, sometimes you just and that that was a turning point in my life when I knew it was hard to see back then, but I see it clearly now. It was hard to understand back then that I was being prepared for where I was going. And the lesson for everyone there is that no matter what hardships you're going through in life, just remember that you're being prepared for where you're going. God has a plan for you. And I had to go through all that, but I'm prepared now. I learned so much going through that 10 years that I can help millions of people with the lessons I learned. And I don't know everything, but it's about changing other people. It's about other people. It's not about me. And I don't want people to feel sorry for me and anything like that, because my mission is to help others. Yeah.
And it was so funny. I mean, you not funny. You went through frightening experiences, and people getting beaten up and they killed in jail. And then it was in the less security jail at the end. I said that the right English. Iemand al my kla my ore uit. The least security jail. And it's like, and then someone tried to poison you.
Yeah.
It's you still don't know who it was. Or you've got an idea.
What happened there, Jona, is I'd become friends with the officer in charge after that incident. We were very close up to then anyway. But then, we didn't get on so well after that little incident, and then we became mates again. And he asked me, the Minister of Health was coming to the prison, the Minister of Health. So he came to me in the exercise yard and he said, I want you to do a talk for me tomorrow to the Minister of Health. So I said, well, can I tell him everything? He said, yeah. So I did. I prepared everything and I wrote it out. And when he came, I told him about all the conditions, the overcrowding, sleeping on the floors, the leaking toilets, washing our clothes in the toilets because there's no other way, only one set of clothing. And all the hardships we went through. I mean, most of them were in maximum security, but still in that place, it was, there was no food and so forth. And after the talk, he thanked me very much and asked me for my speech, my paper. So I gave it to him. A week later, 9 senators came to the prison. So the officer in charge asked me to do the same thing, and I did. They weren't impressed. The Minister of Health, he was very thankful. But the senators kept on telling me to hurry up. And they asked me for my paper afterwards. A month later, I was sent to the open prison on a farm. So there's about 100 guys carefully selected to run a farm for the prison service. So I was in my element, being a farm boy. And I was driving the tractors and fixing boreholes and just getting in there. And then I had guys that I was looking after. So they would do some of things for me, and we were allowed our own food there. So I brought a fridge and a bed. First time I slept in a bed for 8 years. And my job for them was to provide the food, and they'd cook the food for me. And then we shared all the other chores. And the one evening they brought me my grace, and it was sadza and steak, and a pap and steak, and I hammered it. And they wanted separate relish. And I, didn't really. I thought, okay, that's fine. Maybe you don't like the meat or whatever. And about 5 minutes after I'd eaten, it was about 8:30, I was lying in my bed and I suddenly felt I was reading a magazine. My hands started going tingly. And it happened so quick. The next minute my throat felt like it was closing, like it was hard to breathe. And I thought, I want to throw up. So I got up, walked out, and as I got to the door, I knew there was something serious, and that I'd been poisoned. There was something in the food, and it's amazing how I just knew that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
immediately knew.
And everyone was watching TV in the TV room except one guy. And when he came by, I said, "Call the officer in charge quickly. I've been poisoned." Those were my words to him. That's how convinced I was. And I turned around and I collapsed. And then I thought, my phone. So I crawled up the passage into my cubicle, grabbed my phone, put it in its hiding place, and then crawled to the toilet, and it just started vomiting hectically, and the spasms in my stomach, painful, and shivering, and it was June or July, it was freezing cold, and then it started coming out both sides. I mean, I was in a bad way. They had a bucket sitting there, and by that time everyone had arrived, and I remember just sweating, shaking like And the only way I can explain it is like when you need the loo badly and you can't go. It's like just holding on to whatever it takes. And after about an hour, it started subsiding. The pain in my head was like it's going to blow up, just pounding. And then thousands of blood blisters all over my body, tiny little ones everywhere. And my face swelled up like a watermelon when I woke up in the morning. But the only way I can, and I recovered, so I ended up 7 weeks in intensive care in Harare. You know, it was bad. And the specialist I was put under, he said to me, because my hemoglobin count was 5,000 and your normal is between 0 and 100. So he said whatever you're allergic to had a massive impact on you. Yeah, so that, and I never physically really recovered from that.
From that, you said it in the book.
I can only relate it to those talks I gave that upset somebody.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Rusty, we've got one segment left. I want to talk about love, and I think if you can tell people one thing to motivate them, but we're going to get to that now. So bly ingeskakel, ons gesels nou verder. Welkom terug hier by die Groot Ontbyt. Jy net ingeskakel het. Ons gesels met Rusty Labuschagne oor sy boek Beating Change. Kry die boek. Dis gaan definitief jou lewe verander net om hierdie storie te hoor. Rusty, just two more subjects, and we've got about 6 minutes. Is your view on love, you know, as a person, because you had a Sue in your life, and it's very difficult. I mean, you're gone for 10 years, and now you with Sandra. It's beautiful. I mean, she's waiting outside. Just that thing of people, and I wanted to ask you, people that thinks you've got one soulmate or one thing, but that turmoil, and how do you see love even after this?
One thing I want to point out, Yona, is that I find that we've lost love in the world. Everything is revolved around negativity and what can sell. And there's not enough love. You know, there's too many wars, too much anger. And I just find that if I look back at my childhood and how much joy and love there was as a youngster on the farm, water skiing, you know, all the fun things we used to do. And now there's no time, there's no money, and it's just go, go, go. It's all about figures and numbers. And I feel we've lost that love in the world. And there's not enough compassion. And when you're put into jail and you're ripped apart from someone you love, I just want people to know that the person that you sleep next to every night will always have the most powerful connection to you. And I think it's because maybe it's a fear of rejection for me. I'm not sure, but you'll always have that bond with your mom and dad and brothers and sisters and children and that. But there's a different bond with that person you share every night with. And when that's taken away, you cling to that because the others will always be there. And it's that fear of losing that. And that part of my life, to get over that when she left, was really, really hard. And I had huge scars that I never thought would ever get healed. And Sandra has unbelievably changed my whole life. Not only spiritually, but healing all of those things. And it's about doing the right thing, trusting in the Lord, and the visions and the signals. We have a 747 sign. And if we see 747 on a number plate or on the phone, and you pick it up, 747, we know. And you cannot believe how many times that happens in a day, sometimes 3 times in the morning. And then we know everything's okay. So, it's all about love, trust, faith. And I'm very, very happy. And I just want to say, Yona, about hope. That hope is to be able to find positives in all the negatives going on around me brought hope. And hope is the anchor of your soul. Hope, it's what kept me sane and grounded in there. And hope enabled me to see that there's light despite all the darkness. Let your hopes, not your fears, shape your future. And you can't find hope out there. Hope is inside. And when you learn forgiveness and how to be grateful about who you are, what you have, and what you've achieved in your life, you'll find an inner peace that will bring hope within and will change your life forever. And I can honestly say that now that I've got so much peace and faith inside me that nothing bothers me anymore, whether it's finance or going into a studio or whatever it is. I just have this faith in the Lord that everything is going to be fine. And it comes out in the book.
Yeah.
It's, it's
that's,
based on
I
that.
want to leave it there because I think that's the most inspiring. And even corporates, you do a lot of talks now, and we didn't even get to power of forgiveness, positive mental attitude, building resilience, the importance of dignity, the value of gratitude. And I love this ingenuity. Ingenuity. That's also a difficult one. The quality of being clever, original, and inventive. Being in the worst place ever. So where can people find you to book you? I'm just curious. This is like marketing you.
I've got an agent that I use, but also on my website, www.beatingshows.com.
Okay.
And you can book me through there, or my agents are Speakers International or Motivators. And they're wonderful agents. And I just want to say what a guy called Vaughan Galbraith has just been amazing. He's my agent in South Africa. He's been wonderful, yeah.
Rusty, you're a better man than me. Sure. And I'm going through all of that. I can't even imagine it. So thank you so much. And congratulations on the book. And now it's available countrywide.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thanks for your time.